Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we continue with the sixth turn of the Shadowtech Goddess subtitled Kat. Part 4, Chapter 7, The Valley of the Moons. We are hemming to the end of the Kat book, believe it or not. After this chapter, there are only two more. Although the one after this one is incredibly long, almost 30 pages. I'm probably going to have to break that up into two readings because that's way too much. Probably have to break that one up right down the center and then do the last two combined because the last chapter is only like 2.5 pages. The one after this one is long, but we are getting close to the end. In our previous chapter, Aetha reveals that she is Aetha of the Quest, the seventh daughter of the Nargle spirit Carahil and the Windwalker Mab Sornath, the cat goddess. And in my classification of things, a Nargle is a summoned, created creature, sort of like a golem in Hebrew mythology. It's a creature that can be assembled with various things. It can be made out of metal or stone, jewels, flesh, or various components. It can be made out of sand. It can be made out of magical things, and that's what Carahil is made out of, and he is therefore a Nargle. Found out he's a really upstanding guy, a straight shooter, but in this particular universe, he failed to take action in saving the planet Xandar from destruction at the hands of the Black Hats. And for that lack of activity, for that lack of alacrity on his part, he went mad with guilt and became a horrendous demon inhabiting the Cathedral of Bone and Wire, which I created back in the Bloodstein books. It was just a scary place, haunted by a scary thing. There was something in the dark, never really said what it was, but the thing in the dark is Carahil. Lord Belmont and Kat's task on this occasion is not to destroy the monster in the Cathedral of Bone and Wire, but to save it. Aetha wants her father, an alternate form of her father. It's not the one who raised her, but it is still her father in an alternate universe, and she wants him saved. And it could be tough going. They were transported to the planet Xandar in the previous chapter and found it is a wasteland of Shadowtech. They found themselves at the bottom of a Shadowtech sea, and it took their combined efforts to get out of that particular problem and locate the River Tor. Aetha told them, go west on the River Tor until you get to the Valley of the Moons, and then the Cathedral of Bone and Wire is not far from there. So that's where they are. Kat, using the squash stat containing the slate of Page Dulong of Moan, has full access to her Shadowtech / Silvertech skills. She can now create STTs. She created a Silvertech boat that floated them atop the sea of Shadowtech, thousands of feet in the air, and things seem to be going swimmingly. They located the River Tor. They are now making their way west. So, again, this is another long chapter. This is around 18 pages. It's going to take a while for me to read this, so I can't just yak forever. Let's dig in, shall we? Chapter 7, The Valley of the Moons. They followed the stream for a long time, watching it grow steadily larger and deeper as it flowed west. Kat squashed up and sent out another swarm of STTs ahead of the boat to see what awaited them downstream. They got the basket out and dined on the leftovers. As they ate, they managed to stave off some of the eerie disquiet they had felt, reveling in their mutual company. "Hope this is our last meal on Xandar," Kat said. "I'll be glad to go home." "We can only hope." Kat took another bite of bacon. "I think that Her eyes grew wide. "Gee, the buzzers downriver, they're seeing something." "What is it?" She pondered for a moment, dumbstruck. I have no idea. There's something. Whatever it is, it's huge. They put the basket away and scanned the horizon, waiting with dread for what was to come. Soon they saw it, well off in the distance, a great patch of black. At first they thought it a looming storm, but as they neared, it revealed itself to be a hulking black shape that broke the clouds, at least several miles in height. It was some sort of Shadowtech beast, colossal beyond imagination, swaying in the distance like a great mountain. It was composed of a black sphere that served as a rudimentary head, perched atop a waving mass of innumerable black tentacles. It seemed to have a lighter colored area on the sphere that served as eyes. As the boat approached, the beast seemed to get larger and larger until it was a dizzyingly tall, terrifyingly engulfing mass. It seemed to be scraping at the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. Stenstrom went to the prow and trained his mega eye at the thing. Could the Black Cats really have created such things? Kat asked. Apparently so. Kat, I'm seeing the beast scooping up things from the ground and lifting them high into the air. I see a great mouth opening, a jagged maw taking up most of the available space on its head. I see it dropping bits of stone and other sorted items into its mouth. He lowered his mega eye. Creation, Kat. That's why there's nothing left on the surface. This creature has eaten it. Everything. The people, the metal, the stonework, the animals, and all. A second beast came into view, this one crouching on the ground, its gigantic maw open, sucking in river water in titanic quantities, quite literally drinking the Tor out of existence. Kat, get us off the water, now! Forming the oars back into legs, Kat had the boat exit the northern bank, walking inland at a fast, stilty pace. You think they spotted us, G? She asked, staring at the two impossible creatures. We'll find out soon enough. Where should we go? Let's track north, giving us plenty of space between us and them, and then push westward, parallel to the river. Kat turned to the robot. Paige, watch our backs! Paige blasted into the air, trailing a thin line of smoke from her rockets as she climbed skyward. The landscape was a bleak and arid bowl surrounded on two sides by a dusty range of mountains. Behind them, as they trekked inland, they could hear the enormous beast tearing up the ground and sucking down water. They couldn't be gone from them fast enough. The faraway mountains to the west sported a dry, reddish hue. Overhead, several moons populated the sky, Paige connecting them with a line of smoke. Kat, look! 7 moons. I think this is the Valley of the Moons Aetha mentioned. Kara Hill can't be far. Maybe those things out there ate him if he's here. As the boat trekked westward and the mountains approached, the orange hard-pan rock and sand changed in color to a dark, flat green. Paige came down from high above. She pointed at the mountains to the west. Stenstrom climbed the prow, his mega eye to his face, looking ahead. Avast, Kat! I saw the hint of a spire through the peaks yonder just now. I think we're almost there to God's temple. Before Kat could reply, a terrible ground-shaking roar deafened them both, nearly rattling the boat to pieces. Something shot down from the sky fast. Stenstrom reached out to protect Kat. The oars cracked. Paige veered aside as the boat overturned, dumping them to the ground. Some time later, Stenstrom opened his eyes. He was lying face down on a bed of something prickly and uncomfortable. He sat up. Everything hurt. He wasn't quite sure what had happened. He assumed they had been spotted by one of the Shadowtech beasts, that it probably reached out from a great distance to swat them like a tiny bug, destroying Kat's boat. That must have been what had happened. His nth pistols had the supposed ability to slay anything they shot, no matter how arcane or how huge. Looking around, his nths were gone, though he still had his trusty Marzible daggers. He waved up 3 of them, just to know they were there. He was in a vast, low-hanging mist that filled the entire valley bowl with a clinging layer of white. He was also heavily tangled in some sort of ground-hugging growth hidden in the fog. Kat! Where was Kat? He freed himself from the tangle, stood and looked around. All around him was the wreckage of Kat's boat, oars, silver planks, and other flotsam strewn about over a fairly wide area, the various bits of the boat peeking through the fog. Smoke. He dug through the fog and found the smashed half-body of Paige lying on the ground, lights dead. Whatever had attacked them damaged her beyond repair. A little bit of Kat was inside her body, turning a horrid demonic construct into a familiar, comforting presence, a friend even. He lamented her passing. He said goodbye to her and walked away. A patch of blonde hair wallowing in the mist some distance away caught his attention. Kat! He ran toward her, his shirt and pants tearing on the prickly ground cover. As usual, his HRN coat withstood the thorns without damage. To his relief, there was Kat, all crumpled up on the ground. He skittered to her side. She was alive, but quite stuck in the thorns that had caught on her jumpsuit. He looked her over. Anything broken? She was a little scratched up about her face and hands, but otherwise seemed whole. Kat? Kat! She groaned and slowly opened her eyes and held her head. Gee, what happened? We were attacked by Shadowtech. It happened so fast I didn't see it. But what else could it have been? Where's Paige? Dead. Over there. Dead? He scanned the skies in all directions. His heart skipped. He saw 4 Shadowtech beasts looming in the distance to the east and the south, reminding him of towering black silos thousands of feet high. They lurked in the distance, their shiny eyes trained on him and Kat, like giant cats waiting to snare a pair of lonely mice. Then one of the great beasts reached out with a colossal tentacle spanning an impossible distance, moving in their direction as if in slow motion, darkening the sky. Centrils, Kat said, searching for the bag. The Centrils will protect us. It wasn't there. Like his ints, the Centrils were gone. The creature's tentacle stretched out like a great black gulf in the sky, rapidly nearing their position. But in spanning the miles over the valley, the tentacle quivered, lost cohesion, and fell apart into a dark, soaking rain, leaving the beast with little but a stump. Stenstrom heard it moan in frustration as black rain fell all around, tamping down the fog a bit. Something about the valley protected them, keeping the beasts at bay. He had no idea what it was that gave them that protection, but apparently safe for now. He turned his attention to Kat. Are you hurt? I don't think so. She tried to sit up and check herself over, but had difficulty. Gee, I'm stuck. Obscured in the fog, Kat was lying in a patch of dark green, weedy plants studded with impressive thorns. It took some doing, but Stenstrom freed her. He carefully picked her out of the stickers and set her down. Ow! She cried, jumping into his arms. The stickers hurt her feet, which was somewhat odd, as she could normally walk over pretty much anything and not be fazed. These damn things, she cried with anger. Let me fix the boat so we can get out of here. She raised her arm to begin the process, but nothing happened. Gee, something's wrong. My Silvertech, it's gone. Drained somehow. I'm empty. Something occurred to him as the black pieces of the tentacle came down around them. Kat, I just had a thought. Look at this valley. Look at these Shadowtech beasts out there waiting for us but staying at a distance. Look at these plants that grow here in abundance. Weren't we lamenting not long ago that there is no life on Xandar? The Black Hats and their Shadowtech beasts killed everything, vegetation included. But look, this plant, just a pesky weed. But here it is, surviving, thriving even. They watched the cinder-like Shadowtech come down, and as they watched, the plant seemed to grow and writhe before their eyes, becoming denser, sharper, bigger with each passing moment. He carefully picked a plant wary of the thorns. It was just a fibrous olive-green weed studded with savage thorns and an ugly but functional yellow flower growing on a fibrous nettle-laced stalk. Minute golden dust trickled out of the flower at a steady rate. This is what saved us. The Shadowtech beasts have scoured the world clean, but here, this little plant devours them. Devours Shadowtech. The beasts capered about in the distance, frustrated. Stenstrom gazed at the plant with wonder. Remarkable! This plant a troublesome weed anywhere else, but here is nothing short of a miracle. See how life endures? Atha was right. And look at this flower. Why have a flower if not to attract a passing insect? He reached down into the thorny mass and fished around, the troubling stickers having no effect on his HRN. Ah! Stenstrom cried. He cupped something into his hands and returned to Kat's side. Look at this! He opened his hands. Resting in his palm was a gray bug, tiny and fragile. Kat inspected it. It's also highly resistant to Shadowtech. She placed the bug on a Silvertech plank from the boat. Like a grasshopper eating a stem, they watched it nibble away at the Silvertech, infusing it with light and color. Yes, he said, life returns. Shadowtech is abundant, and therefore the new life feeds upon it. What a thing to see! Give it time, and this planet will burst with life afresh. These plants and this bug are the progenitors of all things to come. Stenstrom conjured up the items Atha had given them, a small clay pot, a trowel, and a jar. He used the trowel and collected a few plants in the pot. He placed several bugs into the jar and covered it with a cloth, and then made them all vanish. They listened to one of the distant Shadowtech beasts moan in frustration. "Grumble all you want," Kat said, mocking it. "You can't get us. Ha!" They searched through the wreckage of the boat for their things, the low-hanging fog making progress difficult. Kat's basket was gone. Stenstrom's nth pistols were also gone. Paige was gone as well, her body missing from where it had been, Stenstrom figuring she had been devoured by the plants and the bugs. Kat frantically searched the wreckage, turning over everything. "Gee, the bag of squash is gone! Gone! I had it sitting out on the couch when the boat overturned. I can't find it anywhere." She clutched at her hair in growing panic. "Once this current load runs out, I'm done. What are we going to do?" "We'll proceed as best we can. My ints are gone, the centrals are gone, and the squash is gone. But we've a job that needs doing." He pointed to the west. "I saw a spire that way. That's the way we go." Kat, eyes half closed, wobbled a little and leaned over. "Kat, what's wrong?" "I feel sick." Stenstrom helped her stand. She leaned on him for support. "Silvertech's gone. Feel dizzy. I can't stay here for much longer. But if we leave the protection of the plants, the Shadowtech beasts will get us. They're just waiting for us out there." "Here's what we'll do. I'll put the HRN around you and we'll fade into the shadows. The beasts shouldn't be able to see us. We TK west, to the mountains and beyond." Weak, Kat put her arms around him, falling deep into the warmth of his HRN. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded, and up they went, several feet off the ground. The Shadowtech beast grunted in dismay and shook the ground as he faded into the shadows, no longer able to see him. Up he rose, 20, 30, 40 feet, their shipwreck site now a small bit of chaos on the ground. The tallish purple mountains looked not too far off in the clear air. He headed for them as quickly as he could. The distance, he soon discovered, was deceptive. The mountains that looked fairly close were apparently very far away, the valley floor beneath them giving way to bare orange ground again. Shadowtech beasts were everywhere, milling about, looking for more things to devour. As he had hoped, his fade into the shadows seemed to be protecting them, their passage unnoticed. Eventually, after hours, he was exhausted. They had reached the foothills. Still carrying Kat, he made his way up the gentle hills, occasionally spying the silver spire glinting through the spaces and the mountain tops. Soon, the footing became too treacherous and he had no choice but to lift off with TK and soar. He weaved soundless through the empty valleys and canyons, Kat's hair blowing in his face. She stirred after a bit. "Gee, where are we?" "In the mountains. The beasts are far behind.
Gee, stop. Set me down.
The strain of the TK was killing. He landed in a rocky pass. Kat came out, seemingly much better rested. He sat down to catch his breath and let the pain pass. Kat wrapped around him and ran her fingers through his hair. She kissed his forehead. The green cloth of her sleeve soaked up and radiated the afternoon sun.
Feel better?
She asked. A little, thanks, Kat. Do you have any squash knowledge left? She shook her head.
No, it's gone. I remember creating all those things, but I have no idea how I did it. How could I have lost the squash?
It's done. We can't stay here. We need to keep moving. The distant roar of a Shadowtech beast drove the point home. Propping each other up, they continued down the hill and around the bend of mountains to the southwest, and there it was. Rising up alone on a sandy flat was a tarnished silver structure surrounded by a flat pan of white fog. It looked like a great pile of horns or tusks stacked up and arranged in a semi-cohesive, somewhat bony-looking mass. It was arranged rather cathedral style with a noticeable cruciform pattern. There was a long nave facing north and south with smaller east-west transepts and two much taller tusks placed at the southern end, giving them the appearance of two bell towers. The whole thing looked like the carcass of some prehistoric creature. Kat didn't like the look of it.
This is where Atha's father, Cathedral, lives?
Apparently so. Captain Davidge spoke of him often. He is a creature of good. Kat was dubious. Look at this hideous structure. What good can come out of that? They came down the path and waded into the fog, which was quickly smothering. Unable to see, Kat stood on Stenstrom's shoulders, guiding him towards the forlorn structure. Something came down from the sky with a crash. One of the Shadowtech creatures had arrived, searching for them. It swished the fog about with its tentacles, trying to fan it away so it could more easily locate and devour them.
Gee, what are we gonna do? Are we invisible right now?
No, I'm exhausted from TKing. I can't concentrate. They shambled to the north, trying to stay away from the beast as best they could, but being so huge it was difficult. Several times a sun-blocking tentacle came whistling just over their heads, obliterating the fog. Stenstrom and Kat came to an abutment, the mountains rising up steeply. They had nowhere to go. Should the beast see them, it would snuff them out like a 1,000-foot-high building falling on a pair of ants. Kat put her arms around Stenstrom, trying to protect him. The beast took notice of the cathedral, God's temple. It moved toward it, giant mouth opening, ready to feast on the stone, on the rusted finished metals. Once it was done with that, it would desert on Stenstrom and Kat. Like an octopus ready to engulf a much smaller crab, the beast put its tentacles on the stone. Instantly, something inside the cathedral grabbed hold of it. The beast reacted and fought back, trying to free itself, locking its tentacles down, shaking the ground, pulling hard. As Stenstrom and Kat watched with trepidation, the great beast steadily lost ground, its spherical head rapidly pulled down towards the cathedral arch. The moment its head was near the arch, something crunched onto it. The beast wailed in misery, its tentacles giving way, flapping high into the air, some collapsing into cinders, raining black down on the land for miles around. Inch by agonized inch, the beast's head was pulled into the cathedral, snapping and crunching, its cries of helpless agony so mournful and unbearable to hear that they both felt sorry for it as it suffered. When the last of its head disappeared into the cathedral, the quivering rest quickly followed. Soon, all of the towering Shadowtech vanished through the arch and was gone. The mountain spur was suddenly quiet. The moans hushed into forever silence, with only the sublime thuds of cinders falling. They looked at each other, stunned.
Gee, did Cathedral do that?
I suppose so.
So, if he can do that to a giant Shadowtech beast, what's he gonna do to us?
Stenstrom stood. Let's find out. He just dealt with a giant. We'll see how he deals with two tiny souls under his feet. Steeling themselves, they pressed on, wading into the fog. Up close, the cathedral structure was made up of a number of great bony horns, lashed together with what looked like rusty wire, the great arch at its center 100 feet tall, like a rotten, open mouth. It was the ugliest structure they had ever laid eyes on, making the Clovis ruins seem like a cheery paradise. In silence, they approached and entered via the open southern archway, feeling the ghost of the Shadowtech beast and its suffering walk with them. The interior was foggy and still. A dripping sound came from the rear of the cathedral, breaking the silence with a steady beat. From what they could see of it, it was bony and clean. The nave was open and lofty, all the way down like the throat of a great animal. They brushed themselves off as they entered. The dust and grains of sand they shed seemed to flee and exit out the door in a bouncing fashion. Kat listened.
What's that dripping? He's way back in there. Do you hear him? How are we gonna do this?
Matching him power for power is pointless. If I had my ints, I could kill him, I suppose, but his death is not our mission. Atha told us Carahil, in his grief, lost his soul, forgot who he was. I think the best way to go about this is to vigorously remind him who he is. Stenstrom put his hand to his mouth and called out as loud as he could, Carahil! Carahil! We have come on behalf of your daughter, Atha of the Quest, for she is concerned for you, as are we. Carahil, come out and remember. Kat whirled around.
Oh, gee, what have you done?
There was a moment of silence marked by several drips. Then a strained, haggard voice answered, Who is there? Do I hear something that lives? Carahil, it is I, Lord Stenstrom of Belmont, South Tyrol. I am a friend of Captain Davidge, the Lord of Blanchford, and of his sister, Lady Poe, your creator. Carahil, we have come to assist you and bring you good news. Bump. Bump, bump came from the back of the cathedral. A pair of white spotlight eyes appeared in the fog, hovering high overhead. Good news, came the voice. How can there be good news? From the western arm of the transept, a large mass emerged, a great darkness obscured by fog. 2 points of bright white light from deep within the cloud peered down at them. Malice radiated from it. Carahil, Stenstrom asked, we beg your counsel. We beg you to hear us. A pained voice replied, You should not have come here. Carahil, show yourself, and come with us to your daughter who loves you. The great mass of fog hesitated. Very well. The fog dissipated, and a gigantic gray form emerged. It appeared to be the face of Carahil as they remembered it from the statue in Telmus Grove. Silver, seal-like, only in this case his face was rather large, at least 80 feet off the ground. Most of his body was obscured from their view by the eastern nave. The only thing they could see of him at the moment was his muzzled face and glowing eyes. He stared off to the east, and the rest of him was still hidden around the corner. Drip, drip, drip. Large, slimy tears dripped from his face to the floor. I do not know you, he said. What are you doing here? His voice was booming and tinged with forlorn sadness. We have been sent here by your daughter. She is worried for you. Carahil, still staring off to the east, considered his words. Daughter? I have no daughter. He turned to look at them for the first time. The light from the huge eyes went out, leaving a dull red. The eyes of a demon. Bump, bump, bump. He came fully around the corner of the transept. His body was scarred and blackened with grief. Growing out of his silvery back were 4 immense claw-like hooks on sinewy arms. He ran the hooks along the ground, moving him forward, creating the bump, bump sound on the bony walls and floor of the temple. The demon looked at Kat, seeing her shadow mark. A black hat. Come to appreciate your handiwork, have you?
I am not a black hat,
Kat said defiantly. Ah. One of the claws was clamped firmly around his own neck, squeezing, his eyes sticking out, his tongue lolling. I am your destroyer, Black Hat, he said in a booming, half-choked monotone. You have come to me with your lies.
I am not a Black Hat,
Kat screamed. He raised his claws over his head and attacked in a lope, the claws opening and closing in a scissor-like movement. More lies! Kat sprang out of the way as a claw came crashing down, biting into stone. Cahill reared back and, open mouth, came at Stenstrom, his phlegmy mouth filled with rows of triangular teeth like a shark. Stenstrom girded himself and caught his jaws, holding them open with the sister's power. Cahill, what has become of you? Remember who you are. I am death. I remember that. What has become of me? The demon that once was Cahill said. Nothing has become of me. I am as I have been. He righted himself, seized Stenstrom by the waist with one of his hooks, and slammed him into the ground. Kat sprang to his aid. She had regenerated just enough Silvertech to form her claws. The hook suddenly fell apart in several pieces, Kat slashing it to bits. Cahill lurched toward her, sprouting more hooks from his back, sending them all in her direction in a grisly crunch. She slashed with her claws, shedding several more of the hooks. More came, and she was seized, the hooks crushing down on her ribs. She screamed as he lifted her off the ground, another claw clamping on, ready to tear Kat in two. Cahill! Stenstrom roared. Let her go! The Black Hat is going to die, Cahill growled, and afterwards, so are you. In agony, Kat spat through gritted teeth. I am not a Black Hat. I am here as a free woman, side by side with the man I love. I hate the Black Hats as much as you do for what they did to me and my sisters. I have chosen to come here for you. The demon hesitated. For me? There was no way to deal with this demon other than with reason. Kat had found a small crack in his demented armor. Now Stenstrom had to get through to him. Why are you doing this, Cahill? Why? He wept as he held the struggling Kat like a doll. Look around you. What do you see? Miles of nothing. Empty whispers and old dreams replayed with none to hear. This planet is dead. Everything is dead. It is all my fault. It is all my fault. I saw what was to come, and I chose to do nothing but sit back and try to pretend that everything was going to be fine. Does this place look fine to you? Does it? You came looking for the destroyer. I am the destroyer. Me. Through my inaction, I killed this place. He clamped down tighter on Kat. She screamed again in misery. And now, I'm going to kill you too. For bringing me all this pain right back afresh. For lying to me about a daughter that does not exist. Cahill, wait, he cried. Let me show you something we've discovered. We promised you good news, and we have it. If this doesn't inspire you, then you may kill the both of us and be inconvenienced no longer. Cahill turned to him and loosened the pressure on Kat. She struggled fitfully. You wish to show me something? Fine. Let me see it, and become the latest to die in this cursed place. He scissored his claws. Stenstrom waved his hand, producing the flower pot. Cahill looked at it. What is this? He said. This? It's just a weed, a thistle. An ouchhand, I think the gardeners on Cana call it, because its stickers go right through their gloves. This is probably the most worthless plant one could ever find, but look where it grows. Out there in the arid wastes it grows. A whole valley of it. This plant grows here? He held the jar with the bug within. He released it. The bug took wing and buzzed around, Cahill watching it fly with wonder. But the Shadowtech, the beasts. This plant and this bug feed on Shadowtech. The beasts outside fear these tiny things and are powerless against them. Yes, look, that is our good news, that life is more persistent than you have given it credit for, and all the shadow tech in the universe cannot prevent its coming. Life returns to this place, and perhaps one day birds will fly and fish will swim. Life is waiting to retake Xandar. Carahel, you have been hiding here, wallowing in your guilt for far too long. Take a first step towards redemption and save a life. Please let Kat go. Carahel considered his words. I can't let go. He squeezed. Kat screamed, Gee! Carahel, remember who you are. Remember where you came from. I do not know you personally to any great degree, but I do know one thing, given all the good people who have vouched for you, and that is that you have a heart. It is that same heart that has condemned you to this place, of bone and wire, driven you mad, given you no peace. Look at the daughter who loves you, not in this place, but in others, where you save Xandar, where children come to you for comfort, look to you for inspiration, all true. Stop punishing yourself, Carahel, and please let Kat go. After a moment, the claws opened, and Kat fell out. She scrambled to Stenstrom's side. Now, let yourself go too. Slowly, Carahel opened the claw that had been choking his throat. Carahel diminished in size. The claws dried up and fell off. The scarred, blackened hide dropped off, revealing shiny, smooth skin. 2 red covers fell off his eyes and vanished, leaving bright, silvery eyes shining in the light. He stood there on his flippers. I'm sorry, Carahel said, still looking at the potted flower. I'm so sorry. Stenstrom approached and embraced him around the neck. Kat hung back, still wary, holding her ribs. I have been given to know of a place where none of this happened. You saved Xandar. You inspired the people to take action, and they did so, granting you your arms. You performed a miracle, sweeping the shadow tech from the skies and from the ruins below. A king emerged, a good king, and Xandar was reborn. It even joined the League and is a thriving place. There you are memorialized, not as a god, but as a defender, as a dear friend. This has been made known to me. I did, he said. I helped save Xandar? You did. His silvery seal's face lit up. Just a moment, he said, and took the rim of the pot into his teeth and bounded away, disappearing around the corner of the transept. Gee, we should get out of here, Kat said. No, he's fine. He isn't going to hurt us. Tell that to my aching ribs. He tousled her hair and gave her a kiss as Carahel returned. He was carrying something in his mouth. Ah, such love. It warms my old heart. What is it about shadow tech females, I wonder? Just irresistible, aren't they? They are indeed. Carahel grew a tad in size and placed the items in his mouth on the floor. I destroyed your boat and took these items from you. I thought you were the punts coming to force me into servitude again. I'm sorry. On the floor were several of the missing items from their boat. There were Stenstrom's ints, Kat's basket, as well as a tiny bag of red squash capsules. Kat was elated, taking the bag up and marveling at it. What about the centrils, Mr. Carahel? Kat asked. Do you have those too? I'm sorry, just what's here. I know of centrals of old, very powerful, things even the gods covet. I didn't see any as I destroyed your boat. I would certainly remember if I did. Something entered the cathedral, casting a long shadow, staggering, creating a metal on stone grating with every pained step. Kat squinted to see. Holy crap! It's Paige! She cried. It was Paige, alive and functioning, but as she neared, she seemed odd. There were 2 fully formed halves of her, a robotic right side as before, and a new mottled silvery green left side. They went to her, took her by the hands, her metal hand and her new greenish silvery hand, and assisted her into the cathedral. Her liquid green eyes were wide, full of wonder, as they led her. Carahel loped away, returning a few moments later carrying a gilded chair of hammered gold in his teeth. He set the chair down. Here, allow her to sit. This was the old throne of Xandar Keep. I took it from the wreckage in the aftermath of the attack, along with other odds and ends. They seated Paige in the vast bucket of the chair. She looked about, her eyes lost in confusion. Stenstrom examined her new silvery half. Somehow, Paige, while lying on the ground in the weeds, has generated a partially vegetable, partially silver-tech body. He gently squeezed her hand. Her hand feels like flesh. It's warm. I feel bones or some sort of rigid structure beneath the flesh. He leaned down and sniffed her. She smells like loam. Carahill leaned in. She's in a rapid state of flux. I sense some of her systems changing before our eyes. Look, see the little streaks of gold forming in her skin? See there? She's absorbing the gold from the chair she's sitting in and taking it into herself. Amazing! Kat watched with wonder. Streaks of gold raced around her body, filling her eyes with golden light.
But how is she doing this?
Stenstrom shook his head. I don't know. The conditions in the valley must have been right, perhaps some sort of accidental combination of elements that allowed this process to happen. He checked her robotic hand. Look at her hand! In her metallic palm, welded into the metal, were 3 articulated cubes etched with arcane writing. Centrils! Here they are! She must have been trying to fetch them for us after Carahill inadvertently attacked and sank the boat. They must have reacted with her body, triggering this process. They stayed with Paige for several days, watching her grow before their eyes. Kat found an apple from the bottom of the basket and gave it to her, watching her delicately eat. Before long, an entire tree bursting with fat apples grew from her body, like a leafy parasol over her head. With joy, Carahill took the tree and planted it in the courtyard behind the cathedral at the base of the mountains. The life he had so longed for was now taking hold full on. As the days passed, the metal part of her right side was slowly beginning to shed, like bits of falling armor, giving way to an organic silvery green body. The metal from her right hand fell away, the centrils buried deep in her flesh, fueling her transformation. The courtyard behind the cathedral was soon stocked full of wonders pulled directly from Paige's body. Kat fed her the remnants of a piece of chicken from the basket, and soon a long vine sprouted from her body, with large chicken-like eggs growing from the vine like watermelons. Soon, a small brood of green and gold chicken-like birds were scratching around the cathedral. The vine was joined by a tree sprouting white tissue-like leaves after Stenstrom had taught Paige to wipe her mouth with a napkin. Kat gave Paige a sip of wine from a decanter, and soon a dark, fragrant tree with purple leaves, smelling of delicious wine, was planted in the courtyard. A big drink of cold water from the basket begot a tree that literally rained cold, clear water from its bluish leaves. That tree Carahill planted with great care, and soon a small lake formed. And I had thought this little girl was a punt. I dashed her into the ground, Carahill said, surrounded by birds and other new life that sprung from Paige's flesh. Remarkable, the life that is taking hold here, and I didn't even notice what lived in the valley. So content in my grief that I didn't see the very life I longed for. Please, tell me about my daughter. I wish to hear of her. And they told him of Atha, how she was mysterious and smoky, yet full of hidden light, just like her father. Carahill closing his eyes and nodding as he listened. I will remain here and protect the life that grows. When life stands and lifts its eyes to the heavens, I will be there to greet it. Then I will seek out my daughter, embrace her, and thank her for thinking of me. And then they told Carahill of Bellathauser, the demon, and her pocket realm. They told him of the Destroyer's Road. I know that place. It is befouled with shadow tech, but I will take you there. Come on, hop up. He increased in size until he was large enough for them both to ride. Stenstrom sashed his ints and climbed up on his back. Kat, holding her bag of squash, tarried behind. Oh, come on, Carahill said, regaining a bit of his humor. I don't bite. Not anymore, anyway. Paige stood there, draped in fabrics Carahill had stashed in the cathedral. Green, streaked with gold, most of her metal body shed.
What about Paige?
Kat asked. She will stay with me and be the progenitor of all life on a reborn Xandar. I shall protect her as a father does his daughter. Paige approached Carahill, trying to climb up on his back and join them. No, Paige. You stay here and be safe, Kat said. Silent, golden eyes confused, she took a step back. Kat embraced her. I won't say goodbye. We will return to check on you. I had my angels, and we will be yours. Be well, Paige. Make a good world of this place. Stenstrom came and embraced her also. You will be safe here with Carahill, and as Kat said, we shall return someday. They climbed up Carahill's back, Kat seating herself in the front of Stenstrom. Taking a last look at Paige, Carahill bounded out into the purple sun, the light glinting off his silver body. Are you sure you want to go that way? Positive, Stenstrom said. He gently lifted into the air and drifted west. The way to the Destroyer's Road is chock full of Shadowtech beasts, but they tend to give me wide berth, at least they used to. Carahill lifted up about 1,000 feet and picked up speed. Far off on the horizon was a small but dense patch of black, rapidly approaching. Soon, the distant patch was a growing, rolling storm with ugly clouds of Shadowtech boiling into the heights. Great beasts flew in it. Kat looked back, her hair flying. Gee, we're going to be overwhelmed. Do you have your Silvertech back? Yes, I think so. Then squash up. We're going to need it. Kat took a capsule and mashed it against her forehead. Stenstrom took the bag with the remaining capsules and made it vanish for safekeeping. Here we go, Carahill shouted. They plunged into the storm. Shadowtech rain pelted them, trying to latch on. Stenstrom pushed it away, and Kat lashed at it with deadly micropoint beams. In the distance, sorting itself out from the surrounding darkness, was a hanging rope of swirling night, a Shadowtech funnel roaring and death-bringing. Carahill swerved away from it, but like a living thing, it moved to follow, to overwhelm and annihilate. Faceless beasts and triggered traps came skyward, some chopped into tiny pieces by Kat, others blown to smoky nothingness by Stenstrom's Ents. Many Shadowtech beasts came up, flying at a distance. I see lights coming from the beast's head, Stenstrom said. He conjured up his mega-eye and had a look. His mouth dropped open. I see dozens and dozens of Bellathauser's mechanical halves attached to the beast's heads. The hand of each plunged into the Shadowtech. I see bolts of energy coming from each one, linking them together. I think they're controlling the beasts, enslaving them. Several of the beasts swerved in to attack, the multitudes of Bellathausers attached to its head, giving the impression of a stubbly layer of hair. Kat wound up and loosed a great lance of Silvertech. It reached out across the distance and hit the beast square in the head, destroying many Bellathausers in a long scrape. As if it were being eaten away by acid, the scrape expanded into an open wound which became a vast, ever-expanding canyon. Soon the beast fell away, its head half-eaten, spiraling into the ground far below. Silvertech melts Shadowtech, Kat cried. Several more came in, Carahill swerving across the sky to avoid them. Nearly there! They suddenly broke through into daylight, the towering wall of black in close pursuit. Carahill descended to the ground. Ahead was what appeared to be a forgotten dirt road, leading into a vast, approaching stand of hills. From above, fingers of Shadowtech reached. Stenstrom fired his Ents. Kat released as much Silvertech as she could, but she was becoming exhausted as she split and bisected incoming threads of Shadowtech. Stenstrom held on to her as she began to slump. Ahead, at the end of the path, was a gleam of light. There it is! Go! I will stand against the Shadowtech. Hurry! Carahill cried. Take care of Paige, Kat said. The gleam ahead expanded into a pulsing film of glowing material. As the wave of Shadowtech threatened to engulf them, Stenstrom and Kat plunged in. And with that, we come to an end of Chapter 7, The Valley of the Moons. Another long chapter. Once again, my voice is shot to hell. So, Stenstrom and Kat encountered Carahill as a demon. He was pretty scary. He was wallowing in self-pity. He was ready to destroy them. But they were able to make him see reason and talk their way out of a large battle. The thing with Paige, that was an extremely late edition. I had already finished this book. I was already in the deep editing, proofreading phase, basically just tidying things up. And as I was reading, I had a Bob Ross moment. Like, let's have some fun here. I started thinking about this robot, Paige, and initially she was destroyed by Carahel, and that was the end of her. But I started thinking the theme of this book that appears many times is all things, no matter how unlikely, have the potential to better themselves. We see that over and over again. We see it with Kat. We see it with Lord Belmont. We see it with Lord Aram and Alesta. And I figured it would fit with Paige too, this death-dealing robot that Kat had taken over, and via Centrils became an abundant woman, a progenitor of life. Instead of bringing death, Paige is bringing life to the lifeless world of Xandar. I started writing and adding, I'd already finished the manuscript and it was already done, edited. I was just proofreading it and getting it ready for its final formatting. And I'm starting to add pages. I'm adding this, I'm adding that. It's just, that's how creation works, at least for me. You have this small spark of inspiration and then you don't really know where it's going to go or where it's going to take you, but you like the process. You want to follow it and see where it goes. And that's with this Paige thing. It just fit really well into this theme of the book of bettering oneself, and even a horrendous robot built by a demon has that potential as well. And I think it worked out well. Carol Phillips, as you see, I posted a couple screens back, drew an amazing picture of Paige, the abundant woman, with life just shooting off of her body. You got birds hatching and little napkin flowers and flowers of a wine plant and eggs and all kinds of stuff. It's an amazing picture. Carol did a great job. Anywho, next chapter 8, is called Gelt, and that's where Stenstrom and Kat come to grips with the demon in blue light at long last. However, that chapter is damn well near 30 pages long. There is no way I'm going to be reading a 30-page chapter in one sitting. This will be a horrendously long video, so I'm going to have to split it in two. So next week, same time, same channel, we will be reading Part 4, Chapter 8, Gelt, Part 1, and then the week after that will be Part 2 and the final chapter of the book. We are getting close to the end of this little tale. I do feel sad. Anywho, that is next week. Meanwhile, this is Ren Presents. I'm your host, Ren. Peace out.